When I was a kid, my family did not take vacations like other families took vacations. There was no going to a resort, no going to the beach for a week. We went every year for 2 weeks in the spring to my grandparents' apartment in Florida. And these trips, while they were billed as vacations, you just should know that they were like the world's longest afternoon at your grandma's. It lasted 2 weeks. And what they were marked by more than anything was the sameness of it all. Day after day, week after week, year after year, it was always the same, except the year that Jack and Belle Leventhal showed up. So when I was 16, we get to Florida, right? And my sister and I, we're gonna stay in Bubby's room. In this, there's a 2-bedroom apartment. My grandparents have moved to a complex called the Mayfair, which is really a pair of 2-story buildings separated by a small pool and a building called the Clubhouse, but that's kind of an exaggeration for what it was, and 2 shuffleboard courts. And it's a bunch of 2-bedroom apartments. And my grandparents live in their apartment with my grandmother's mother, my great-grandmother, who's known as Bubby. And we get there. It's me, I'm 16, and my sister Lisa, she's 2 years younger. We're put into Bubby's room with her. There's 2 twin beds, one of which is Bubby's, and a cot. So I immediately take the twin bed because fuck Lisa. And my grandparents are in the master bedroom. And my parents are gonna be sleeping on the sofa bed for the next 16 nights in the living room. We're all gonna be in this place. And Lisa and I unpack knowing what the next 2 weeks are gonna hold. The first thing that's gonna happen is my parents are gonna have a fight because my mother has packed my father's suitcase and inevitably has forgotten some critical item like his brown belt or his jockstrap. The next morning we'll wake up and we'll go to the pool. First, my grandma will put out some kind of weird breakfast that's gonna include this gross pulpy orange juice. And then Bubby's gonna stay in the apartment and watch game shows. My grandparents will go to work. My father, who in later years will go on to become, let's just call him a rather prolific gambler, he will go to the clubhouse and play cards with the men and ignore my mother. And my mother will be pissed off and respond to this by ignoring Lisa and me. She will get on a lounge chair, cover herself with baby oil, pick up that reflector, and just totally blow us off. And Lisa and I will spend all day amusing ourselves at the pool without the benefit of texting our friends, this didn't exist, or calling from our cell phones, which didn't exist, or listening on our iPods, which didn't exist, or even having a Walkman, which really wasn't in wide distribution at that point. We just had each other, that was it. We know that one old lady is gonna hassle us about bathing caps, even though our hair is shorter than most of the men. We know that one old man is gonna hassle us about using the shuffleboard paddles, sticks that are supposed to be for the grown-ups. The kids have to use the shitty ones. We know that on Sundays we'll go to bingo in the clubhouse and Mr. Lifshus will be the caller and Mrs. Cinnamon is gonna be mean to Mr. Cinnamon because he can't keep up. We know that once we'll be taken to the beach, once we'll be taken out for ice cream, once we'll go to Pumpernicks for brunch. And this will be awesome if you're a fat kid because Pumpernicks has this constantly refillable basket of Danish on the table. Oh. And if my grandma is with us, she will call for one last refill right before it's time to leave, and she'll wrap them in napkins and put them in her pocketbook for later. We know everything that is going to happen. Except this year, my grandparents have made some new friends. Jack and Belle Leventhal have moved into the building next door. And my grandparents are clearly enamored of Jack and Belle. Jack had been an international businessman, which was a big deal. My grandpa owned a tavern, but Jack, I don't know what kind of business, but Jack had been an international businessman and they had gone all over the world. and they are coming over for cocktails this evening. So 5 o'clock comes and Jack and Belle show up. Jack is really tall, not just Jewish tall, like tall, all arms and legs, and Belle is this tiny elfin woman with her hair coiffed and sprayed into place and predictably tremendous breasts. And my grandma pours drinks. Jack starts drinking vodka by the glass, and Jack starts holding court and telling everyone about his travels. And he tells us about this trip that they had taken to Japan. And in Japan, you know, the delicacy is something called sushi. And it is, hold on to your hats, raw fish. It's 1980, you guys. We didn't have Walkman, and we didn't know from sushi. Okay? So we're all like, no way, raw fish, oh my God. And Jack's like, no, it's true. And he tells us that to show us how delicious it is, he's going to reciprocate my grandparents' gracious cocktail invitation. And the next night, we are all going to go to Jack and Belle's for cocktails. So this is kind of a big deal now. We're invited over there. And the next morning, we wake up and everything's the same. The shitty orange juice, and the grandparents go to work, and the father ignores the mother, and the mother ignores us, and Bubby watches game shows. And Lisa and I bounce between the pool and the apartment until it's finally time to get dressed and go to Jack and Belle's. And we get there, and the door opens, and Jack has already hitting the vodka. And we walk in, and I look around, and it's nice, but it occurs to me, like, it's not that nice. Jack and Belle live at the Mayfair, too, international businessman or not. And Jack finally puts down his glass, and he goes into the kitchen, and he comes out, and in one hand, he is holding a bottle of Kikkoman soy sauce, and balanced on the other, like a waiter tray, is a blue styrofoam tray from Publix. And on this blue styrofoam tray is some kind of random white flat fish fillet that's been cut into squares, and perched in each square is a toothpick. And here is our sushi. So Jack pours the soy sauce onto the tray and puts the bottle down and picks up the toothpick and dips the fish in the soy sauce and pops it in his mouth, and he goes, "Oh, it's delicious. It's flounder." Now, a lot of years have gone by, and I actually do eat a lot of sushi, and I will tell you what I know is that while much of sushi is made of raw fish, not all raw fish is sushi. They are not the same thing. And what Jack has given us is not really sushi. It's just some fucking raw flounder on a blue styrofoam tray from Publix. And he asks, who's gonna go next? And my grandma, of course, is like, I'll go, Jack. And she does just like Jack did. She pours the soy sauce and she dips with the toothpick and she puts it in her mouth and she pronounces it so creamy and delicious. And she turns to admire some tchotchke that may have been from Japan or may have been from Chinatown on the wall. And Jack's like, who's next? And my dad goes, and my mom goes, and my grandpa goes. And now it's me and Lisa. And there's no getting out of this. Like, there's no saying no. It would be rude. So we do like Jack, and we make with the soy sauce, and we make with the dip, and we put it in our mouth, and we choke it down. And it is exactly as disgusting as you imagine Roy's raw flounder on a toothpick would be. And as soon as we can, we get the hell out of there. And the next morning, everything's back to the same. The shitty orange juice, the bubby watching TV, the grandparents going to work, the father ignoring the mother, my mother ignoring us, Lisa and me at the pool. But this time, we're cool with that. Thank you.